Thank you, folks. Is this working? Great. Thank you. Please welcome director of the film, Nitsan Tal, who's sitting next to me. And where is Danielle? Danielle Knafo, please. She's coming. She'll join us. Okay. Can we get a microphone for Nitsan, please? Thank you. Thank you so much for this film. Thank you for being here with us. I have so many questions. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with, obviously, you didn't shoot this. It seems he shot all of this, and he had the footage. Where did you get involved? How did you get involved with all of this?
So I met Rafael, actually it was exactly 10 years ago, so at the end of 2015, someone contacted me, said that there's an artist that's doing a project in Uganda with refugee children that were deported from Israel, and he was looking for someone to document it, and was I interested? And I thought that it was a very interesting story, so I traveled, and it was Hanukkah of 2015, so exactly 10 years ago, and I joined Rafael, and he did that art project, and that's how I met him. And at the time, things didn't go that smoothly, and I was like, okay, I'll document the project, and I'll move on, I'll give him the footage, and I'll move on. But things happened, and we ended up making a film together. It was called the 8,000 Paper Clips. And while I was working on it, I heard about the story of the screw, and I remember thinking, I even told my editor, Licky, wow, if we were only there to shoot it, this is such an amazing story. This would have been an amazing movie. And we're like, well, okay, well, I guess that's it. And then one day I was talking to Rafael, and all of a sudden he brought it up. He's like, oh, you would like to make a movie? I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't there. What kind of footage am I gonna use? And he said, well, actually, I've got a lot. And he sent me an email with a photo of a cardboard box, like this big, with all kind of cassettes like VHS and mini DV and stuff that I didn't have any idea like how I'm supposed to even watch it. And that's how things rolled from there. And basically, it turned out that since the time he spent in Lance's studio, there was a video camera there, and they started shooting each other, and he, I guess, found some significance in documenting, and after that, he made sure to document each stage of the journey.
And definitely covered a lot and made sure to put himself in there too, so definitely put the efforts. Can I ask how many hours of footage you had?
Oh, wow, I want to say it initially 40, and then turned out that we didn't even have everything, and we had to go look for it, and there was someone in Israel, somewhere else in Israel that had it, and then someone in France that had more material, and I want to say at the end, probably like 80 hours or so. Not all of them very good quality. So.
I can imagine. Danielle, let me ask you, how did you get involved with this? Where did it start for you?
Well, I met Rafael when he was in New York, when he went to the Guggenheim, that whole period when he was living in New York. A fellow artist or art collector put me in touch with him, and we became friends. And I heard about the journey of the screw, and I even curated an exhibit for him in Long Island with the screw and photos of his journey, and I wrote something about that. So we became friends, and then I guess he gave you my name, right? He connected me to Nitsan for the film, and I guess you had the idea to put me in, so she interviewed me in that red chair is my home. And I was happy to take part in it because I know Raphael. I got to know him. He's a very creative and interesting person with an interesting life. And I was fascinated not only by his artwork and the journey, but his internal process, his internal journey. And so I was glad to talk about that as well.
So diving into the next level, why was it important for you to tell this story?
So my own father lived with bipolar disorder, severe. And when I started looking at the material and learning about the story, Raphael talked about being depressed, and that was part of what I witnessed also with my father. But then when I was watching the rest of the footage, especially I remember watching the interview with Giulio, and he describes how Raphael barely slept and drinks and smokes all day and works with incredible speed. And I'm like, he's manic here. I mean, okay, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but I know a manic episode when I see it. And that for me was very significant, and it also kind of influenced how I told the story, because if at the beginning I approached the story as just a weird art project or a journey, I realized that the story of the family and Raphael's relationship with Ty and the steps that Judy was willing to take in order to let Ty and Raphael stay in touch was very similar in a lot of ways to things that happened in my family and how my mom made sure that I stayed in touch with my dad. I mean, my dad never became an artist, unfortunately. Maybe that could have helped him. But I realized that that's, for me, an important part of the story.
And Danielle, as you take some water, as a psychologist, how do you see this film? Where do you see this film as why tell the story and why bring it to the public?
Well, I think the audience can respond. It's a fascinating story. And he obviously thought it was a fascinating story because he was filming it himself. So this is also the self-consciousness that we have to realize that this was his story, in a way told by him, but then fashioned by Nitsan. I think that for me, I'm a psychologist, but I also have an expertise in creativity, in the psychology of creativity. And right now I'm writing a paper, I have it on me, I was reading it on the way, on madness and creativity. And so I've always been interested in that intersection between psychopathology and creativity. So many artists do suffer from some kind of you want to call it mental illness, and particularly, as I said, bipolar, manic depressive, are known to have to also be very creative. There are many very famous artists who suffer from bipolar disorder, and that he was able to take. He was this wonderful preschool teacher, so lively and creative, and the kids loved him. And then, boom, he had this major depression to the point where he was hospitalized almost a year and didn't want to leave the hospital. They wanted to discharge him, and he said, no, I'm not ready. And that he was in a hospital that allowed him to go out every day and create, which was a lifesaver for him, instead of just keeping him, in the institution. And we have a very famous artist, Yayoi Kusama, who also lives in a mental institution in Japan, and she goes out every day and creates. And Van Gogh was also allowed to create while he was in institution. But it's very rare that psychiatry understands the power of creativity and that can be a healing process as much as any kind of therapy or drugs, for sure. So that intersection, I feel, is very important, and this movie illustrates that.
I completely agree. I think that this movie really shows how art can be a form of therapy.
Yeah.
It breaks taboos and puts mental health really on the table. And it's really, even though you're telling the story, it's really in first person.
Yeah.
It's really coming it's from self advocacy, which is something that I think we really appreciate in today's approach to mental health. One last question, then I'll open it to questions from the audience. Where are they now? What have been the reactions to the film? Tell us. I mean, mostly, how's Raphael doing?
Sorry. Raphael lives in Israel. He stayed, after coming back, he stayed in Israel. He lived in New York for a while, but at the end he stayed in Israel. He lives in the north. He still creates. He does a lot of unusual art projects. He continues with the wheels and with some chairs and other things. He has a website, raphaellomas.com, if anyone wants to look him up. Judy and Ty remained in Europe. They eventually moved to Spain, to the Barcelona area. Judy remarried. Her husband died a few years ago. She worked in theater. Ty studied design and art. He's a very talented photographer. They actually collaborated. They had some very interesting projects together, Ty and Raphael. Ty is married and has 2 young children, and he's still in the Barcelona area.
Thank you. I'd love to take some questions, comments, and make you a part of this. We're going to pass a microphone around right there.
I wondered about the illustrations, the charcoal drawings, the portraits of Raphael, and how they came about, and how are they related to the film and the content?
Yes, so I think from the very beginning I realized that parts of the story, like the suicide attempt, I did not have any way to visualize. He didn't film that, yeah. I didn't have any visuals for that, and I needed something, and I thought that the animation could be something to try. And it took me a while to find an animator. I actually looked for a while, couldn't find anyone, and then someone put me in touch with a person who teaches animation, and he suggested 2 of his students, and I was like, okay, let me have each one of them animate one short scene, and let's see. And one of them, Tenzin, the first scene that he animated for me was a suicide attempt with those with that like stairway to heaven kind of image, and that was totally his. I mean, I just gave him the text that Raphael is telling, and I was just blown away. I'm like, okay, you're it. And the process was very interesting because I would give him a scene that I wanted, and I would make some suggestions, and sometimes he followed my suggestions, and sometimes he came back with something completely different, like the giant hand. That was totally his. I was actually thinking of something like chains, shackles, something like that, and he sends me back the giant hand, and I'm like, yes, thank you, love it. So it was a very interesting collaboration.
Sorry, I guess almost a follow-on to that. I'm wondering, you had all this footage. A lot of it was during periods where he was very creative and moving forward with this project. I'm wondering if he had footage from, when you have manic depression, there's ups and then there's also downs, right? So I'm wondering if there were periods between the parts that we saw in the film that either he filmed or he didn't choose to film, where he had sort of low points that were not sort of directly addressed in the film?
Yes, I mean, I think throughout the journey, he also had some low points. As from a cinematic point of view, it's just not very interesting to show it. So, but yeah, he had some low points and some doubts and some places where he didn't really know what was going on. Yes, and he still does. And actually, he says, I'd rather have a small depression every day than a major depression every 30 years.
We have one more up there on top. That's how Caroline gets in her steps.
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations on this film. I wanted to mention that it was so interesting to me because I'm a collector of screws myself. And I see them in the street and I pick them up and I take them home with me. I don't know what I'm going to do with all those screws, but when I saw it, I didn't understand it in the beginning until I saw that he came out of his depression and started to use his artistic ability to help himself. And it was interesting to me that every time he was taking the screw to another journey, I was thinking, when the heck is he going to screw it into something? He didn't do that. He did want it to flow in the river, but I kept imagining, when is it going to screw,
I want to say something about that. He actually made it opposite so it couldn't screw into anything and that it would just continue spiraling. And that's why the top part is open, more open. But he said he didn't do that on purpose. Only afterwards he realized that his screw could not, it would screw itself out of being a screw, he said.
Fascinating. And I kept thinking, even, there's the missing piece, the Shel Silverstein picture, book. Yeah. And yes, you're looking for that other part. And a screw doesn't live alone, or does it? And, that's a big philosophical question. Does it need to find its bolt? Is it?
And he had a hard time letting it go. He had this whole plan for 7 years that he was going to release it in the Ganges, and he had a hard time doing it.
Sometimes you just
he continues to live with it.
You get attached to your screw and can't get rid of it. This is something really to think more about. So thank you for giving us this food to chew on. Thank you for being here. Where's the film going next? How do people access this?
Well, right now we have a few screenings planned in some Jewish communities, JCC in Philadelphia, but we have a website, My Missing Screw, and we have a page for screenings, so we always update it.
And I have to say, even though I'm glad it's going to JCC's. It's not a Jewish film. It's a universal film that truly travels the world and can be relevant to absolutely everyone, anywhere. So I hope others pick it up. Was there a question here?
You know what I felt that was not completely developed for me, his journey to Dachau. I kind of thought, well, where's that taking him? Especially because he was a child of a survivor. So am I. So I was, that really grabbed me.
His father and grandfather were in Dachau, and his grandfather was killed there, but his father survived. What was the question? It was a very important place for him to go to, and
Just didn't finish it for me.
yeah.
I think for him too, it didn't. As
ongoing.
as everywhere, everywhere it seems, like okay, this is the end of my journey. This is the end of my journey. And maybe he needed to build it correctly so he could screw it in somewhere. Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you for being here. Have a good night. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.